He had no head, completely, utterly gone without a trace. Everything above his neck had dissolved into nothingness, while viscous blood dripped quietly from the collar of his uniform. Yet there he stood, firmly planted on 2 feet, maintaining perfect military posture. The police officer's uniform was impeccably maintained, his badge gleaming dully in the moonlight. His hand held the precise angle of a salute, and I reflexively raised my own hand in response. Because of the rules. Never break the rules.
Always salute the headless officer.
One of 7 rules written on that slip of paper my father had given me. At the time, I didn't understand what it meant. All I knew was that if I didn't follow these rules, I wouldn't live to see the morning. And now, I warn you, if you ever visit the town of Eden, never try to leave town at night. Even if you see the toll booth's light, don't feel safe. The person working there might not even be alive. This story began with my first night shift. A small town called Eden, deep in the mountains of Montana. In this town of barely 800 people, my family held a special position as the mayor's son and as descendants of the founders. From childhood, I had felt an inexplicable fear of the toll booth. During the day, it was just an ordinary old building, but as dusk approached, it felt like some unknowable presence was breathing within it. The adults in town would also try to change the subject whenever the toll booth came up in conversation, as if there were secrets that shouldn't be spoken aloud.
Edward, you know why you're here, don't you?
There was something heavy in my father Albert's voice, beyond his usual sternness. Standing in front of the rusty toll booth, he placed his hand on my shoulder. That hand was trembling slightly. It was the first time I'd seen my father, who was always confident as mayor, show such anxiety.
It's not just about watching the toll booth. It's about maintaining order. That's your duty. It's also the destiny of the McCory family.
I nodded. At 18, I still couldn't understand the weight of those words. I didn't know why my father had such a serious expression, why there was fear mixed in his voice. During the day, the toll booth was peaceful. The barrier stayed up. Anyone could come and go freely. No one collected the 1-cent fee. But with sunset, everything changed.
Never leave town at night.
This was an unwritten rule, an implicit understanding that every town resident knew. And tonight, I would learn why. 6:15 p.m. The sun had completely disappeared behind the mountains, and inside the toll booth, I unfolded the paper my father had given me. 7 rules scrawled on the dirty paper. Each one seemed mysterious to me. 1. Do not respond to your name. 2. Trace the symbol when the midnight bell tolls. 3. Do not look in the mirror between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. 4. Accept nothing from the old woman. 5. Never turn off the old radio. 6. Ignore all cries for help. 7. Always salute the headless officer. The paper's texture was old, as if it had been written decades ago. The ink had reddish-brown stains scattered throughout. Impossible to tell if they were blood or just rust. The letters appeared to be written hastily, yet each one was careful, conveying the urgent circumstances of whoever wrote them. "Why 7?" I muttered. A small mirror in the corner of the room reflected the dim lighting. An old radio mounted on the wall faintly played music. Everything looked normal, so why were such specific and strange rules necessary? I suddenly noticed that these rules were arranged chronologically, from evening through midnight to dawn, as if they were designed to follow the flow of a single night. Was this coincidence or inevitability? I didn't know yet. These rules would save my life multiple times during that one night, and that these 7 rules were actually part of one great ritual. The first visitor appeared at 6:45 p.m. A small blue car's headlights cut through the darkness as it approached. The car stopped smoothly in front of the toll booth, and the driver rolled down the window. The dry sound of a penny dropping into the collection basket. I pressed the button to raise the barrier and waved. The car quietly passed through. But after the car disappeared into the darkness, I noticed something strange. I couldn't remember the driver's face. Not their hair color, gender, or clothing. I remembered nothing. All I remembered was the smile. Perfectly aligned white teeth. All 32 teeth were uniform, glossy, beautiful as if made of porcelain. That smile was burned into my mind and wouldn't leave. While every other memory had vanished into fog, only that smile remained with crystal clarity. I'm just tired, I told myself. But deep down, I felt something was wrong. This wasn't just memory confusion. It felt like some artificial, intentional manipulation of memory had occurred. 15 minutes had passed since the blue car left. I sat in the toll booth chair, continuing to think about that smile. Why did only that smile remain so vividly? Why had I forgotten everything else? Anxiety ached small in my chest. Wasn't this just a prelude to what would happen tonight? My father's warning, that heavy expression, and the 7 rules. Everything felt like it was converging toward one great fear. I looked around outside from the toll booth window. The quiet road surrounded by mountains. Moonlight faintly illuminated the asphalt. In this seemingly peaceful landscape, was some invisible threat lurking? The old clock in the toll booth marked time. Still 7 p.m. The night had just begun. 7:20 p.m. A green sedan approached the toll booth. A middle-aged man rolled down his window, John Denver's Country Roads playing from inside the car. Great song, I said. The man gave a thumbs up and smiled, dropped a coin, and drove away. The music disappeared with him into the darkness. 5 minutes later, the exact same green sedan appeared. The same man, the same smile, and the music picked up exactly where it had left off last time. Nice to see you again, I said, confused. The man smiled again, dropped a coin, and drove away. The music continued, and then the same sedan appeared again, and again, and again. For 45 minutes, I watched the same scene repeat. The same car, the same man, the same song fragments gradually connecting. As if time had broken, reality repeating the same frame over and over. But by the third encounter, I realized this wasn't just an abnormal phenomenon. Something was trying to communicate with me through this repetition. Just as the song was progressing toward completion, weren't tonight's events also progressing toward some completion? When the last sedan left, Country Roads had played completely through. My watch showed 8:05 p.m., but those cars should have appeared consecutively. It shouldn't have taken 45 minutes. Time was broken, and I was beginning to understand. Tonight wasn't an ordinary night. The reason for the rule's existence wasn't mere superstition either. 8:30 p.m. Police sirens could be heard, but they were coming from the direction of town. Eden only had one police car, so this was clearly a different vehicle. Flashing lights approached the toll booth. I braced myself, thinking some emergency had occurred. The moment the window rolled down, my heart nearly stopped. No head. Completely, utterly headless. Above the bloody stump of neck was only void. Yet the police officer's uniform was perfectly maintained, the badge on his chest gleaming in the moonlight. Bestial growling sounds came from the back seat, the voice of something wild and hungry, neither human nor animal. With trembling hands, I checked the rules paper. Always salute the headless officer. I stood up and saluted. The headless officer returned the salute with precise movement and drove away without a word. The beast scrolling from the back seat also disappeared into the darkness. Now I understood. The rules weren't metaphors or jokes. They all had literal meaning. And this headless officer wasn't an enemy. There was something protective, compassionate in the way he returned the salute. 11:55 p.m. The old radio suddenly turned up its volume and began changing channels on its own. After static noise, an unfamiliar radio station's voice began playing.
This is Radio Harmony. It's almost time for the Midnight Record.
A smooth, hypnotic male voice. There was a strange charm to that voice, and listening to it made my consciousness grow hazy. I quickly shook my head to clear my mind. I checked my watch. 5 minutes until midnight. Remembering the rule about tracing the symbol, I frantically searched under the desk. In a small box were an old brush and ink bottle. The brush bristles were well used. The ink bottle showed signs of age. These tools being placed here was no coincidence. When the midnight bell began to toll, strange music started playing. Drums mixed with high-pitched metallic sounds made the hair on my neck stand up. But the music had a kind of rhythm, like accompaniment to an ancient ritual. At that moment, blue light rose on the back of the toll booth door, a circular symbol with runic letters carved inside. It was beautiful, mystical, and simultaneously inspiring of awe. I dipped the brush in ink and carefully traced each line. Strangely, my hand movements flowed naturally, as if I had repeated this action many times before. Was this genetic memory? With each rune I traced, the light grew stronger, and the radio music turned to screaming. But I felt no fear. Rather, I had a sense of mission that I was fulfilling some important duty. The moment I completed the final character, blinding light filled the toll booth, and I had to close my eyes. Suddenly, everything fell silent. The light vanished. The symbol disappeared without a trace. The radio returned to the original rock station, but my hands continued to tremble. Something had changed. I felt as if something within me had awakened. 1:15 a.m. A woman's crying could be heard in the distance. A figure staggered toward the toll booth. A woman in a tattered coat, her face hidden by long hair, headed toward the barrier. She wasn't trying to pay the toll, but was trying to force the barrier open. "Ma'am, please pay 1 cent," I called out, but she wasn't listening. No, she couldn't hear. She began ramming the barrier with her body. Along with the sound of grinding metal, her heartbreaking cries echoed into the night. My heart felt torn. There was clearly someone who needed help, yet the rules commanded, ignore all cries for help. But after the midnight ritual, I was beginning to understand the true meaning of the rules. These weren't mere prohibitions. They were wisdom for survival. "Please stop." At my voice, she stopped moving. Like someone had pressed pause on a movie, she froze completely. For several seconds, complete silence where even the wind couldn't be heard. Then suddenly, she dropped to all fours. Flailing her limbs, bobbing her head up and down unnaturally, she crawled toward me. The crying continued, but now she began banging her head against the window glass. Even as blood streamed down, she didn't stop. Police lights appeared in the distance. The headless officer appeared again and took the woman to his car. His movements weren't violent, but rather merciful, like protecting a lost child. I saluted with trembling hands. After the officer left, I understood. That woman might have once been someone who tried to protect the town, but she broke the rules and became something else. This was the consequence of breaking rules. 2:10 a.m. A rusty green pickup truck approached. The body was so deteriorated it looked ready to collapse. An old woman sat in the driver's seat. While searching for coins, she held something out toward me, except nothing from the old woman. Remembering the rule, I immediately raised the barrier. No payment necessary. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. But the old woman wouldn't have it. She tried to push a dirty coin at me. Under the moonlight, it glittered strangely, an oddly sticky object. Really? It's fine. Free tonight. The old woman stared at me and laughed.
Do you know who I am, young man?
No, I've never seen you before.
I've known you since you were born, Edward. Ever since your ancestors first set foot on this land and made a contract with me, I've watched over every child born in Eden.
While she spoke, the truck's rust began spreading as if alive, crawling up the hood, covering the side panels, and then reaching her as well.
Your town owes much to that contract. Safety and prosperity in exchange for certain concessions.
The rust covered her skin, flaking off whenever she moved. Fear dwelt in her eyes, but whether it was fear of herself or fear of the contract itself was unclear. What kind of contract? I asked in a trembling voice. She smiled with rusted lips.
A contract that keeps this place alive and thriving. In exchange for protecting the town from threats of the outside world, we provide guardians. Toll booth guardians, generation after generation.
Understanding flashed in my mind. The town's prosperity, peaceful daily life, and these night shifts at the toll booth. Everything was part of the contract.
Remember this, Edward. Every rule has its reason. Every contract has its price. And your family are the guardians of that contract.
Finally, she threw the coin on the ground and headed toward town. The truck scattered rust particles in the air as it went. When I picked it up, it was no longer a coin. A giant, dirty human fingernail, evidence of the contract, and a warning. After the old woman left, I sat in the toll booth chair and began organizing tonight's events. The blue car driver whose only smile remained, the repeating green sedan where time warped, the headless officer's protective salute, the midnight symbol drawing ritual, the boundary protected by refusing help, and the existence of an ancient contract. Everything was beginning to connect. The 7 rules weren't individual prohibitions. They were components of one great defense system. The toll booth wasn't just a toll collection point. It was the center of a barrier separating the town from the outside world, and I understood why there were 7 rules. 7 is a sacred number representing completeness. It has held magical meaning since ancient times. These rules divided the time from evening to dawn into 7 stages, establishing procedures to protect against specific threats at each stage. Numbers 1 through 3 were preparation stages, non-response to names, midnight rituals, separation of mirror worlds. Numbers 4 through 6 were trial stages, refusing temptation, maintaining communication, suppressing mercy. And number 7 was the protection stage, cooperation with the headless officer. My family had protected this knowledge for generations. 2:45 a.m. A motorcycle engine cut through the night. A single bike coming from outside town. The rider wore sunglasses. Sunglasses in the middle of the night? He paid the toll while giving a thumbs up and smile. Just after passing through the barrier, he suddenly lost control. The motorcycle skidded across the road. The rider pinned underneath, motionless. "Are you okay?" I called out, my heart racing. He groaned and weakly raised his hand, signaling me to come help. I was about to leave the booth when I remembered the rule. Ignore all cries for help. But now I understood the true meaning of the rules. This wasn't cruelty. It was wisdom for self-preservation. Then I smelled gasoline in the air. Fire erupted from the bike, and the rider began screaming for help. Black smoke rose, flames reaching 7 feet high, but he was calling my name.
Edward, help me. Edward.
But I never told him my name. How did he know my name? Do not respond to your name. Now I completely understood the meaning of this rule. Names are gateways to the soul. By knowing someone's true name, supernatural beings can control humans. That rider knew my name, but not through legitimate means. In the flames and screaming, only my name rang out strangely calm and mechanical. Like a recording, my name was monotonously layered over the cries for help. A police car appeared, and the headless officer walked straight into the flames. What he brought out no longer had human form, a being made of fire, something like a fire spirit. I saluted and watched all traces disappear from the road. That being was trying to drag me into a world of flames. If I had responded to the name, if I had gone to help, I would have met the same fate. 2:58 a.m. Banging sounds echoed inside the toll booth, from the direction of the small bathroom mirror. Checking my watch, it was still before 3 a.m. The rules said not to look in mirrors between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Technically, it should still be safe to look. Fearfully peering into the mirror, there was another me, wearing the same clothes but torn and dirty, a bloody cut streaming down the cheek, bloodied fists. That me was desperately pounding the glass, in complete panic, trying to escape from something. But now I could understand. That was me from another timeline, the me who broke the rules and failed to keep the contract. Checking my watch. Still 2:59. In the mirror, headlights appeared in the distance. I turned around, but there was nothing on the actual road. Only in the mirror, an ambulance approached. From the ambulance stepped a tall man wearing a pig mask. He crawled right through the toll booth's small window. The me in the mirror pounded the glass even more frantically. I understood. That pig-masked man was a being who collected rule violators, a death god-like existence who took away failed guardians. When the clock hand pointed to 3 a.m., I looked away from the mirror. Rules were absolute. But behind me, the pounding grew even more violent. The sound of bones breaking mixed in. The me in the mirror was about to be captured by the pig-masked man. I closed my eyes and covered my ears. The bone-breaking sounds eventually changed to wet slapping sounds. Pig squealing could also be heard. Snorting sounds, grunting, occasional screams. Cars came to the toll booth one after another. Normal drivers, normal toll payments. As if nothing was happening. But at 3 a.m., why were so many cars on this remote mountain road? Now I understood. These cars were also part of the trial, staging to confuse reality and fantasy, strengthening the temptation toward the mirror world. The wet slapping sounds continued. The pig voices too. I kept my eyes forward, continuing to follow the rules. 4 a.m. A police car appeared. This time, a giant pig's head was tied to the roof. Not an ordinary pig. A hairy face, protruding tusks, yellow pus dripping from the nostrils, and antlers growing from its head. When I saluted the headless officer, the sounds behind me stopped. When I turned around, the mirror only had a small crack, but that crack was shaped like a cross, like a seal. 4:30 a.m. The atmosphere around the toll booth changed. Until now, there had been loneliness, but now it was different. I was being watched. Countless eyes observed me from the darkness, between the trees, beyond the road, and from above in the sky. At first, I thought it was just paranoia, but observing carefully, Something was really there. Occasionally, moonlight illuminated something glinting in the tree shadows, blinking points of light, moving shadows. The entire town was watching me. This wasn't hostility. Rather, it was protective gazing. The town residents, past guardians, and all beings connected to the contract were watching my night shift, holding their breath, watching whether I would succeed. I took a deep breath. I wasn't alone. Generations of people had carried the same responsibility, faced the same fears. I was part of that long tradition. From 4:45 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., various beings visited the toll booth. A white van with a driver whose head was turned completely backward. In the back seat too, all passengers had their heads turned backward. They stared at me as they passed. With backward-facing eyes, beings who saw the past instead of the future. A shiny green pickup truck scattering flower petals. A young woman asked,
Have you seen my mother?
Before I could answer, she laughed lightly and drove away. The petals were beautiful like cherry blossoms, but vanished when touched. I was beginning to understand that each being symbolized something. Attachment to the past, mourning for what was lost, emptiness within beauty, trials embodying human emotions and weaknesses. 5:45 a.m. Only 15 minutes left in my shift, but the final trial awaited. The sound of a multitude of feet crawling on the ground. The sound of countless legs striking asphalt. What emerged from the darkness was a giant dark centipede, but at the front was a human head. The body was made of stitched-together skin. Impossible to tell if it was human or something else. Skin taker. The name my father had spoken came to mind. But now I was no longer a powerless young man. I was a guardian who had deepened understanding and grown through the night. The centipede began ramming the toll booth. The human face remained strangely calm while the long body constricted the toll booth. The windows fogged up. The outside became invisible. The structure of the toll booth creaked, compressed to the verge of collapse. I stood up with determination rather than fear in my chest. You shall not pass. For the first time, I acted proactively. I lowered the barrier and maximized the toll booth's lights. I turned up the old radio volume and searched for the mystical music that had played at midnight. Found it. Radio Harmony.
This is Radio Harmony. Tonight's guardian has fulfilled his duty admirably.
I understood. This was the final test. Run or fight. Become a man or remain a child. Police lights flashed in the distance. The headless officer. But this time, I intended to fight alongside him. I raised the barrier. Remembering the symbol, I drew it in the air with my finger. Blue light emanated from my fingertips. Suddenly, a loud crash. The toll booth shook violently, but this time I wasn't losing either. The light symbol was pushing back the skin taker. Gunshots rang out. The headless officer had arrived. Wet, tearing sounds. We fought together. Great-grandfather and great-grandson, past and present, the dead and the living joining forces. The toll booth went dark, but I was no longer afraid. I waited with trust for everything to end. More gunshots. Closer this time. The toll booth shook violently again, and I hit my head on the edge of the table. But before losing consciousness, I was certain of victory. 6:30 a.m. I woke to the alarm. Morning light streamed into the toll booth. The windows were normal. No traces outside. No centipede. No headless officer. No evidence remained. But in my heart was firm confidence. I had accomplished it. Returning to town, my father was waiting. His expression was serious, but pride was mixed in as well.
Do you understand the importance of the rules now? why someone must be at the toll booth every night.
I nodded, but this time it wasn't mere understanding. It was conviction based on experience. Dad, please tell me about that centipede monster, the skin taker, and about the headless officer. My father's face grew even more serious.
The skin taker is a being born from the result of ancient contract violations. Long ago, another town tried to make a contract like Eden's and failed. The residents of that town fused together and became that monster.
What about the headless officer?
His name was William McCory, your great-grandfather.
The mystery of bloodline was solved in that moment.
50 years ago, he also worked at the toll booth. That night, the skin taker attacked Eden for the first time. William fought to protect the town and lost his head. But his will didn't die, and he continues to protect us even now.
I understood the identity of the protective presence I'd felt all night. Blood connection, love, and sense of mission. He's fighting to get his head back, isn't he?
Yes, and he will always protect you, because blood bonds transcend death.
I saluted, toward the sky, toward my great-grandfather. Somewhere, I felt he was saluting back. So someday I'll also.
That's for you to choose.
My father said.
But remember, these rules have been protected by our family for generations. We exist to protect Eden.
I looked up at the morning sky. Until last night, I would have felt this responsibility as a burden. But now it was different. Dad, I'll continue. As a toll booth guardian, tears welled up in my father's eyes.
I'm proud of you, Edward.
I understood. This wasn't a curse. It was a privilege. A sacred mission to protect a world invisible to ordinary people. This is what happened during my first night shift. 5 years have passed since then. I still work at the toll booth regularly. Rules are absolute. Break them and you die. Follow them and you survive. But more than that, following them means you can protect the town, family, loved ones. But why am I telling you this story? Because knowledge is power. And because you might visit Eden someday. Maybe you're already on your way. GPS might guide you on the shortest route, leading you through mountain roads to Eden. If you see that toll booth's light at night, remember this. Never try to leave town at night. The toll booth operator might not even be alive. Those who break the rules cannot see the morning. And perhaps you too are destined to become a guardian. Bloodline is important, but it's not everything. With will and courage and the desire to protect those you love, anyone can become a guardian. The contract is always seeking new protectors. My name is Edward McCory, son of Eden's mayor. And now that you know my story, you've already become part of this tale. Because knowledge comes with responsibility. Tonight, when you go to sleep, you might see blue car headlights outside your window. The driver will have a perfect smile, but you won't be able to remember their face, because that might be the beginning of your test. Your radio might change channels on its own. You might hear a station called Radio Harmony. When that happens, wait until midnight and don't forget to look for the blue light symbol. Never look in mirrors between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. There might be a failed version of you screaming for help, but you must ignore it and be the successful you. And if you see a headless police officer, don't forget to salute. He will protect you. Because everyone who hears this story becomes a member of Eden's family. This is both a warning and an invitation. You can choose to forget this story and continue your ordinary life, or to visit us someday and see the truth with your own eyes. But remember this: once you know something, you cannot unknow it. Once you hear the rules, you must follow them. And once you choose a path, you must walk it to the end. Tonight, a new toll booth might appear in your town. An old wooden hut, a single light bulb, and a figure sitting in a chair. That person will smile and beckon to you. At that moment, you should remember my story, Edward's experience, and the importance of choice. Because fear is an opportunity for growth, responsibility is honor, and stories continue forever. You might become the next guardian. You might become the next protector. And you might become the next storyteller. Good night, and good luck. May you make the right choice.